Tuesday, October 6th, 2020. The world lost a truly amazing and phenomenal person. One of my personal favorite influences as a guitarist and a musician, as well as he was for many people, for many other musicians and artists. Mr. Eddie Van Halen, songwriter and electric guitarist of the hard rock heavy metal band known as Van Halen, passed away this morning of throat cancer. Now, today I found out in the middle of an online class for my audio engineering school. Someone mentioned in the chat that Mr. Van Halen passed away. Immediately, we all pretty much stopped what we were discussing and took a few moments just to talk about him, and which to me really shows how special Edward Van Halen was. He was a man who took the possibilities of the electric guitar and expanded them further for thousands of guitarists coming after him. Eddie was the innovator of the tapping technique for the electric guitar, which most guitarists into the 1980s and onward seemed to respectably grasp and master just as much as they could. But no one was able to ever do it like Eddie was. He was easily one of the top 3 guitarists of all time. The 60s had Jimi Hendrix, the 70s had Jimmy Page, and the 80s had Eddie Van Halen. That's the rank of guitarists that we all put him up to as. Just to go over some of the history of Eddie Van Halen, I put a post on Amino, and I'll read a bit of that post here for you guys. Edward Lodewijk Van Halen was born in Amsterdam, North Holland, Netherlands on January 26, 1955. After moving to Pasadena, California, United States, with his mother Eugenia, father Jean, and his brother Alex in 1962, Eddie would enter an annual piano competitions held at the Long Beach City College from 1964 to 1967, winning first place 3 years in a row. However, he did not find that the piano was challenging enough for him. After his brother Alex picked up the electric guitar, Eddie decided to learn drums. However, they would soon realize that both of them needed to switch to the other's instrument because it just seemed much more natural for them. Alex had rocked the drum solo for the Safari's Wipeout, which signaled to Eddie that he should be the drummer and Eddie should instead be the guitarist. As a result, Eddie would practice constantly, whether sitting in his room or walking around the house. The two would form the band that would become Van Halen in 1972, eventually recruiting Michael Anthony on bass guitar and David Lee Roth on vocals. The brothers would also record some demos with Kiss bassist Gene Simmons in 1976. The band would release their self-titled debut album in 1976, of which would be the landmark album in hard rock and heavy metal for multiple reasons, one being that it brought a more American sound to the genres, kicking off the metal migration of which would become the driving sound of the 1980s. The album would also pioneer the tapping technique on the legendary guitar solo Eruption, in which Eddie essentially changed the idea of guitar solos forever. Also included were the band's first hit singles You Really Got Me, cover of The Kinks, and Runnin' with the Devil. The band would release several iconic records over the next 6 years, most notably Van Halen 2 in 1979, Women for Children First in 1980, and 1984 in 1984. Eddie notably collaborated with Michael Jackson in 1982 on the song Beat It, despite the band having a rule against collaborations with other artists. As a compromise, Eddie was uncredited on the album Thriller, which the song comes from. The riff was written by Jackson and played by Toto guitarist Steve Lukather, but Eddie stars in the song's iconic guitar solo, which showcased the spirit and showmanship of Mr. Van Halen's signature sound. It was such a powerful solo that the audio engineers for the album reported that the monitors had caught fire. Though the album would ultimately keep Van Halen's album 1984 from ever hitting number 1, it was a success for both Jackson and Eddie alike. Eddie recalled being at a store when the song came on the radio. Some kids in front of him commented, "Listen to this guy trying to sound like Eddie Van Halen," to which Eddie taps him on the shoulder and says, "That's me." Eddie would also collaborate with fellow guitar legend Brian May of Queen in 1983 on the Starfleet Project EP, in which he is featured on guitar and backing vocals. May commented on his playing on the song Let Me Out as him torturing his top string to its audible death and playing the rest of the song on the remaining 5. Though the album was not a success by any means, it serves as a hidden gem for both Van Halen and Queen fans. However, these collaborations would soon lead to conflicts within Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen was always known for pioneering his guitar solos, but on 1984's album 1984, he recanted his previous piano skills from childhood on the synthesizer for tracks like title track instrumental, I'll Wait, and most notably, Jump, the latter which would become the band's first and only original number 1 hit with frontman David Lee Roth. The album also held the classic piano and the shredding Hot for Teacher. Tensions would soon begin to rise within the band, specifically with Roth, who was upset due to Eddie breaking their rules on outside collaborations, as well as alleged drug abuse that interfered with their practice sessions. Roth would answer this first by going solo himself with his 1985 debut Crazy from the Heat EP, and then eventually leaving the band several weeks later. This change in lineup would prove to be one of the most controversial shifts in rock music. In 1986, upon looking for a new lead vocalist, Eddie found Montrose frontman Sammy Hagar, who agreed to take up the position as well as for a rhythm guitarist. This addition caused a split between many fans. Many loved Hagar as a replacement, but many also hated. There was such a distaste for the new direction of the band that many differentiate the band name as now being called Van Hagar. The relationship between the two was a lot more stable, and they managed to score their first 4 number 1 albums of their career, with 5150 in 1986, OU 8112 in 1988, For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge in 1991, and Balance in 1995. During the early stages of the Hagar era, Eddie famously played his extended Eruption solo in New Haven, Connecticut, which would live on to be remembered as one of the greatest live performances in history. Van Halen would experience several lineup changes, including Hagar's departure in 1996, being replaced by extreme vocalist Gary Cherone for one studio album, eventually dropping him as well in 1999. Throughout the 2000s, the band were largely inactive, though they did reunite with Hagar from 2003 to 2005. Eddie's son Wolfgang Van Halen would replace Michael Anthony on bass in 2006, and Roth would rejoin the next year. Unfortunately, the band would only ever record one more album, being A Different Kind of Truth in 2012. Eddie Van Halen was a guitar legend to many, but to those close to him, he was a father to Wolfgang Van Halen, a husband to Valerie Bertinelli and Janie Lizowski, a brother to Alex Van Halen, and a friend to all and many more. He will truly be missed by everyone and everywhere. Rest in peace, Edward Eddie Lodowick Van Halen.